Hey, good morning. It's Patricia Murphy. It's Tuesday. This is Seattle Now. You've heard the stories of houses selling for $500,000 over asking price around here, and things aren't getting any easier. One big reason? All cash offers are becoming more common and leaving the 30-year mortgage buyers in the dust. We'll dig into what that means and how you can even get enough cash to buy a house outright in a minute. But first, let's get you caught up. One of the region's major employers is moving in the direction of reopening. Microsoft announced Monday its Redmond campus will fully reopen to employees at the end of the month. Visitors and guests are allowed back on campus too. They'll also start up that connector bus again. Employees have 30 days to work out a hybrid work plan with their manager. Expedia also announced similar news yesterday, calling vaccinated workers back to the office for hybrid work starting in April. Meanwhile, Starbucks workers at the company's flagship Fancy Reserve Roastery on Capitol Hill have filed a petition to unionize. It's the second flagship store to file. Workers at the New York City location also submitted a petition last week. Starbucks has launched a website to offer its POV, answer questions, and generally urge workers to vote no. The current partner union push is up to 81 stores in 24 states. And the city's bus drivers say the number of people smoking narcotics on board is increasing to the point where it's becoming a hazard. The Seattle Times reports that Metro employees filed 44 security reports for drug use in 2019. Last year, there were nearly 400. While that number may reflect increased reporting, the union representing the drivers says the problem is real. In some cases, drivers say they've had to pull over mid-shift and stop driving. Some specifically mentioned feeling headaches, dizziness, or irritated breathing. I was scrolling through TikTok last week, as I sometimes do, and this video popped up on my For You page.
Okay, this is Rant. Can someone tell me what the F is going on with the Seattle real estate market?
This is Prashant Kuchi. He and his wife are looking to buy a house north of Seattle, maybe in Everett or even Mukilteo. We called Prashant up to hear just what was going on with his house hunt. He said the first couple of times they put in an offer on a house, they were outbid. And both times the winning bids were all cash offers.
The next one, I think, was extremely crazy. This was in Everett. It was listed for $625,000, and our escalation clause was up to $725,000. So we were offering $100,000 more. But it closed for $825,000, so $200,000 above list price, all cash.
They've now lost out on 5 houses to all cash offers. One was even lower than their offer. This was so frustrating for Prashant. He and his wife both have solid incomes, and he knows a lot about money. He makes content about personal finance on YouTube and TikTok. But even he doesn't have the kind of cash that other people were able to offer for these houses.
So I want to know, who are you? Who are you if you're offering all cash? Where did you get it from? Let me know. Can I get some of that?
Great question. Who has $800,000 lying around to drop on a house? And what is the appeal of an all-cash offer? Chad Dierickx is here to help us answer those questions. He's a real estate broker based in West Seattle. Chad, thanks for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Really glad you're here. So let's talk about this term, all cash offer. It gets thrown around a lot in real estate stories. There was news last week, in fact, about a house in Bellevue that sold for $1 million over the asking price, and that was an all cash offer. Tell me what this means.
Yeah, so the difference between that buyer and Prashant is that Prashant is relying on a mortgage, which requires extra steps and an approval process that's totally outside of his control. So when I go to get a traditional mortgage, there are 2 big pieces that Prashant has to get through that the buyer of the Bellevue house doesn't. One is the underwriting process, where someone goes through, reviews all of your assets and financial information, your credit score, and makes a determination about whether you're a viable borrower. And the second, which has become much more salient in today's market as prices are rising so quickly, is that a mortgage requires an appraisal. which is an independent evaluation of the property's worth. And if the lender's appraisal comes back below the agreed upon price, the buyer either has to make up the difference or get the seller to agree to reduce the cost of the house, which in this market won't happen.
So it sounds like if I'm a seller and somebody shows up at my house and says, I have a pile of cash, we can eliminate all of these other situations that you just mentioned. Let's do this deal. That is a very appealing offer for that seller.
Exactly. So there's nobody else involved in the transaction except for me, the buyer, with all my cash, and you, the seller, who just wants to get a successful closing. And one of the key pieces in this too is, especially as many sellers are buyers as well, or they're about to be, getting an offer with all cash means that I can close in a week sometimes, even if everybody wants to. Whereas a traditional mortgage on the very fastest would be about 14 days. So, and traditionally it's more like twice that amount of time.
Sure. Well, then let's get to Prashant's question. Who is making these offers? He told us his suspicion was that it's people in tech who have stocks that they've cashed out that just have a lot of money on hand. Is he right?
I would say that is a really big part of the group of folks that are making cash offers, yes. A big group that's also making cash offers is folks who are moving down. They've lived in their large family home and they're moving to a smaller property. They just sold their family home, or they had a line of credit on their equity in that home, and they're taking the proceeds of that sale to their new purchase. So those folks have no mortgage left on their old house or a small one, and when they sell, it's all money in the bank. Another group that's out there is maybe those same people's children. Wealthy people's children, in many cases, are being offered a leg up, sort of an advance on their inheritance in the form of a cash loan from their parents or even a gift. So there's a good number of folks out there, in their late 20s or 30s or 40s who are making all cash offers because mom and dad see the predicament they're in and want to make sure that they can give them the boost they need to get into a really, really competitive housing market. And another group that doesn't have mom and dad's help, but is being helped now by some new financial technology companies, is a group of folks whose either their real estate agent or their mortgage lender is actually willing to front them the cash and then refinance that purchase into a new mortgage, a traditional mortgage, after the fact. Many traditional mortgage lenders, even in our region, are saying, yeah, we'd like to give you a regular mortgage. Sure, we'll do that, but first we'll just front you the money. Give us an inspection report of the house. Let us take a quick pass at the value and make sure this isn't a wildly outlandish purchase price. And then we'll roll you into a regular mortgage down the road later.
Wow, that is fascinating. It actually sounds like lenders are having to change their approach to loan money to people in this current market.
Yeah, absolutely. And they still get the loan that they want in the end, and they get some extra fees for their trouble. So it can be an excellent business to be in. And again, it is solving a problem that really has been around for as long as I can remember.
Interesting. One thing I have heard through the grapevine is that some of these offers are coming from investors, people who want to buy the property, not necessarily live there themselves. Redfin released a study last year that almost 10% of residential house sales in the Seattle area went to businesses. Is that theory true, that some of these all-cash offers don't even come from people looking to buy a home? They're just investing in a future market somewhere?
Absolutely. There are people locally and internationally who are always looking for a place to park cash that feels safe and adds some diversity to their portfolio. I think there's a good chunk of folks out there who are very bullish about the future of Seattle real estate as well. So it's not, the same as some low yield bond that they could put their money in. It's a real asset, which is also very appealing in an economic environment like we're in right now, where we're seeing prices of goods and housing increase at a really rapid pace.
I'm thinking about 2005, about the incredibly competitive housing market we had back then. It feels like we're in a similar situation right now, and Prashant spoke to that. I'm sure a lot of people in this area have just resigned themselves to the fact that they are probably never going to be able to buy a home here. And I wonder if this is just the new reality, or if anything could change. Because, you know, you always have people popping in and saying, no, this is a bubble. It's going to burst. Y'all are going to be sorry. What do you see?
Boy, I really wish that I knew. I remember times even 5 years ago telling people that the housing market here felt frothy. And of course, up and up it went. It's really difficult to see what our future holds. It seems to me that rising interest rates could and should put some limits on demand. Demand has been certainly strong in Seattle for the last decade, and especially the last 5 years as the tech scene has grown and incomes have grown. The big challenge we have, and this is not just Seattle, but this is really everywhere in the country, is just such a restraint on inventory. The supply levels are so low. And a big driver for that is if I bought my house anytime before last year, I was able to refinance or purchase my home with a rate that's much lower than it's ever been. So we saw people locking rates in the low 2s and mid 2s last year. Now, just last week on Friday, rates crossed over above 4%. And many folks who have purchased homes the last few years, they would traditionally sell the property they were departing. But again, with low interest rates, they could go rent that house and in many cases be right away in the black on their rent versus their housing costs. So there are far few sellers as a result of those low interest rates that we've had. And that's been a big driver of low supply as well. But I don't think that we're going to see any relief, frankly, in prices until the supply side picks up quite a bit.
Right. Inventory. That's what I hear over and over again, is the inventory is critical to the housing situation here. Chad Dierickx, West Seattle real estate broker, really appreciate your expertise. Thank you for taking the time to talk.
Thanks so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Seattle Now. Clare McGrane produced today's show. Matt Jorgensen does our theme music. Thank you to Prashant for sharing his story with us. You can find his TikTok account in the show notes. I'm Patricia Murphy. See you tomorrow.